Have you ever watched one of the most talented teams in football walk onto the biggest stage and suddenly look completely ordinary? Because that's exactly what happened in this World Cup semifinal. France arrived carrying enormous expectations, a squad filled with world-class attackers, a team that had scored freely throughout the tournament. Many believed they had the firepower to overwhelm anyone standing in their way. Instead, 90 minutes later, they were walking off the pitch beaten, frustrated, and asking questions that quickly dominated headlines around the world. Was Spain simply too good? Or did one controversial penalty change everything? The debate exploded almost instantly. France questioned the officiating. Fans argued endlessly across social media. Television panels replayed the same incident from every possible angle. But as the dust settled, another question became impossible to ignore. Was the referee really the story? Or was Spain quietly delivering one of the greatest tactical performances of the entire World Cup? Because once you look beyond the controversy, an entirely different picture begins to emerge. And it might completely change how you remember this match. Before kickoff, France looked unstoppable. Kylian Mbappé was leading one of the most frightening attacks international football has seen in years. Alongside him were Ousmane Dembélé, Mikel Olise, and Bradley Barcola, players blessed with pace, creativity, and the ability to decide matches in seconds. They had already scored 16 goals during the tournament. Every opponent before Spain had struggled to contain them. Pundits expected another attacking masterclass. Spain had other ideas. Rather than matching France in an open game, Luis de la Fuente built his entire plan around one simple objective. Don't let France play the football they love. Instead of chasing France's stars, Spain chased control. From the opening whistle, their midfield squeezed every inch of space. Rodri calmly positioned himself in front of the defense like a conductor leading an orchestra. Fabian Ruiz constantly offered passing angles. Every movement had purpose. Every pass carried patience. France weren't being overwhelmed by speed. They were being suffocated by possession. And that's a very different kind of football. Within minutes, the pattern was obvious. Whenever France recovered possession, Spain won it back almost immediately. The French forwards, usually devastating in transition, were now spending more time tracking runners than attacking defenders. Mbappe found himself isolated. Dembélé rarely received the ball in dangerous positions. Olise struggled to influence play. Barcola waited for opportunities that simply never came. Spain weren't just stopping attacks. They were preventing attacks from ever beginning. That difference changed everything. Then came the moment that transformed the conversation around the entire semifinal. Just under 20 minutes into the match, Spain pushed another attack into the French penalty area. The cross arrived. Lucas Digne turned to clear the danger. At the same moment, Lamine Yamal burst into the box. There was contact. The referee pointed immediately to the penalty spot. No long delay. No dramatic on-field review. Just one confident decision. Moments later, Mikel Oyarzabal calmly converted. Spain led 1-0. Inside the stadium, Spanish supporters erupted. French players surrounded the referee. Almost instantly, the biggest talking point of the night had arrived. Was it the correct decision? Or had France been punished too harshly? That debate would continue long after the final whistle. But in real time, Spain barely celebrated for long, because they knew something even more important. They still had over 70 minutes left to control, and that's exactly what they did. Many controversial matches completely change after an early penalty. Teams lose discipline. Games become chaotic. This semifinal never did. Instead, Spain became even calmer. If anything, the goal strengthened their confidence. They passed with even greater patience. France chased harder. Spain slowed the game down further. Every completed passing sequence drained another piece of French energy. Rodri dictated the rhythm almost effortlessly. Fabian Ruiz constantly found space between the lines. The midfield battle wasn't close anymore. It became one-sided. France had built their tournament around explosive attacking quality. But football has always been won in the middle of the pitch. And on this night, Spain owned it. Here's what many people didn't notice during the live broadcast. France's biggest stars weren't necessarily playing badly. They simply weren't receiving the ball in positions where they could hurt Spain. That's an enormous difference. Great attackers depend on service. Without it, even world-class players begin to disappear. Mbappe's most memorable effort came from a free kick that sailed harmlessly over the crossbar. Dembélé, normally electric in one-on-one situations, found himself receiving possession deeper and deeper. Olise struggled to create. Barcola's pace became almost irrelevant because Spain refused to leave space behind their defensive line. Spain weren't stopping individual players. They were cutting off the supply chain. And once that happened, France's greatest strength slowly became invisible. Then another fascinating psychological battle unfolded. The longer Spain kept the ball, the more impatient France became. Instead of pressing together, players started pressing individually. Small gaps appeared. Spain immediately exploited them. Every misplaced French pass created another long spell of Spanish possession. Every minute increased the frustration. And frustration changes football matches. Players begin forcing passes. Decision-making becomes rushed. Confidence slowly disappears. Spain sensed that. They never panicked. They simply continued playing their football. Patient, disciplined, collective. It almost looked rehearsed. But just when it seemed Spain had complete control, the controversy returned. French players continued questioning several refereeing decisions throughout the game. Supporters felt the penalty had changed everything. Some believed it deserved another review. Others argued the contact existed, but the punishment was harsh. It quickly became the dominant storyline online. Yet there was another side to the debate. Several analysts pointed out that contact had clearly occurred inside the penalty area. Under the current interpretation of the laws of the game, many believed the referee's decision could be justified. Even among former officials, opinions remained divided. Was it soft? Perhaps. Was it automatically wrong? Not necessarily. That distinction would become incredibly important after the match. Because while everyone argued about one decision, Spain quietly kept controlling almost every other part of the football game. And what happened after the final whistle would create an even bigger story than the penalty itself. The final whistle confirmed the result. Spain had beaten France 2-0. But instead of celebrating one of the finest tactical performances of the tournament, the conversation immediately shifted somewhere else. The referee. Within minutes, microphones surrounded the French camp. Reporters wanted answers. Supporters wanted explanations. Social media was already flooded with slow-motion replays of the penalty decision. Didier Deschamps didn't hide his frustration. He questioned several officiating decisions and suggested that the referee's performance deserved scrutiny on a stage as big as a World Cup semifinal. Almost instantly, headlines around the world focused on one question. Had France been robbed? It was a narrative that spread rapidly because football loves controversy. A single refereeing decision is easier to debate than 90 minutes of tactical dominance. But as analysts began reviewing the match, another reality emerged. The penalty may have been the loudest moment, but it wasn't the biggest reason France lost. Because if you remove that incident entirely, one uncomfortable fact remains. France still spent most of the match chasing Spain's shadows. This is where football becomes more than goals and highlights. It's about control. Spain didn't simply attack better. They controlled where the match was played. Every time France looked ready to launch a counterattack, Spain slowed the tempo. Every time Mbappe drifted into space, another Spanish midfielder was already closing the passing lane. Every time Dembélé looked isolated against one defender, support quickly arrived. Spain defended with the ball. That's one of the hardest styles to beat because it forces opponents to become impatient. And France did exactly that. Their pressing became increasingly desperate. Passing accuracy dropped. Movement lost its coordination. The more France chased the game, the more comfortable Spain became. Sometimes dominance isn't measured by possession statistics. Sometimes it's measured by how powerless your opponent looks. And France rarely looked like scoring. Then came perhaps the most revealing reaction of the entire evening. Kylian Mbappé stepped in front of the cameras. Many expected him to blame the referee. Instead, his comments painted a very different picture. Rather than focusing only on the penalty, Mbappe reportedly admitted that Spain had controlled the midfield battle. He acknowledged that France struggled tactically. He suggested the team failed to solve Spain's numerical advantage in central areas. Those comments were significant because they shifted attention away from one controversial decision and back toward the football itself. Whether fans agreed with him or not, his words reflected something many analysts had already noticed throughout the 90 minutes. Spain didn't just win individual duels. They won the chess match. That created an interesting contrast inside the French camp. Some voices questioned officiating. Others focused on tactical shortcomings. And naturally, supporters split into different camps. One group believed the penalty changed the entire momentum of the match. Another argued that champions find ways to recover from setbacks. After all, elite teams have come back from early goals before. The discussion quickly became less about one incident and more about responsibility. Was France unlucky, or were they simply outplayed by a better organized team? The answer depends on which moments you value most. If you focus on the penalty, the debate feels understandable. If you focus on the entire match, Spain's superiority becomes difficult to ignore. There's another detail that's easy to overlook. Throughout this tournament, France's incredible attack often covered up small tactical weaknesses. Against weaker opponents, individual brilliance solved problems. A moment of Mbappe magic, a Dembélé dribble, a perfectly timed run from Barcola. Those moments won matches. Spain didn't allow those moments to exist. Their defensive structure forced France into predictable attacks. No space behind the defense. No easy transitions. No open game. It was almost the perfect opponent to expose a team built around explosive attacking talent. And that's exactly why so many coaches admire Spain. Because they don't only attack. They dictate how everyone else is allowed to play. Meanwhile, Spain looked every bit like a team convinced they could lift the World Cup. Their unbeaten run had already earned respect. Now, they had eliminated one of the tournament favorites without ever appearing rattled. Rodri once again demonstrated why many consider him one of football's smartest midfielders. Fabian Ruiz quietly produced another outstanding performance. The defense stayed disciplined. The attackers remained patient. Perhaps most importantly, every player understood their role. Football history is filled with teams boasting bigger stars. But tournaments are often won by squads with greater balance. And on this night, Spain looked exactly that. Balanced, connected, confident. As the celebrations continued, Luis de la Fuente praised what he believed made his side special. Not individual brilliance. Not famous names. The team. That message perfectly reflected everything supporters had witnessed. France possessed extraordinary talent. Spain possessed extraordinary cohesion. Sometimes that's the difference between reaching a final and watching one from home. Of course, debates surrounding the penalty won't disappear overnight. Fans will continue replaying the incident. Former referees will continue offering different interpretations. Television panels will continue arguing over whether VAR should have been used differently. That's football. Every major tournament creates moments people remember for years. But when historians look back at this semifinal, they'll probably remember something else. They'll remember how Spain completely controlled one of the world's most dangerous attacking teams. They'll remember a midfield masterclass. They'll remember composure under pressure. And they'll remember that football matches are rarely decided by a single moment. They're usually decided by everything that happens before and after it. Now Spain march into the World Cup final, carrying enormous momentum. Their confidence has never looked higher. Their identity has never looked clearer. And every remaining opponent now understands exactly what they're facing. Not just a collection of talented players, but one of the most complete teams in world football. As for France, difficult questions now await. Can this incredible generation learn from this defeat? Will tactical adjustments be needed for future tournaments? And how will this semi-final shape the next chapter of French football? Only time will answer those questions. But one thing is already certain. This semifinal wasn't remembered only because of a controversial penalty. It was remembered because one team imposed its identity from the first whistle to the last. And on football's biggest stage, that is often what separates champions from contenders. So what do you think? Did the penalty truly change the match, or was Spain simply the better team regardless of that decision? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive documentary into one of the biggest stories of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because we'll be bringing you more tactical breakdowns, exclusive football stories, and World Cup analysis you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.